7 o'clock.
The meeting of the Nottaway County Board of Supervisors has now come to order. Mr. Bowen, would you please give us the invocation?
Yes, sir. Let's go to Father. Lord, again, we thank you for all that you do, and you're such a good God and a loving God. And Lord, tonight we just lift up part of our Nottaway family, Gary Easter and the loss of his mom, and then Wayne Maiden has lost his wife. And Lord, we know that they've been suffering, and now we just ask for you to put your hand of comfort on them. Father, we lift up our veterans. Father, we know that we just had that recent celebration, and we know that the hedge of protection that you have given this great country is there are your fingers in part of your hand for that protection, and we thank you for their sacrifice and their family's sacrifice as well. And now, Lord, we just ask you for your wisdom through Jesus Christ. We pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We'll now have the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the agenda, please.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. I need a motion to approve the minutes from October the 14th and 21st.
I move to approve the minutes from October 14th, 2021 work session and October 21st, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes from the 14th and the 21st of October. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. We'll now have delegations from the public. We have a 5-minute time limit on each speaker. So I'll start out by calling Mr. Thomas T. Taylor. I couldn't miss that, Tom.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I come here to speak tonight, not about that statue out there, not about no prayer. I'm gonna give you a softball question. What is the status of the bowling alley? Anybody over here, or in the center? I just want to know the status of the bowling alley. Let me sit down.
Is this side of the room down? Can I answer you?
Whatever feel good to them. This is the status of the bowling alley.
I guess you remember that the current leaseholder that we had, that lease was terminated. As it expired, the county chose to market the property. We are working on a marketing strategy for the property. We do have a number of interested parties in the bowling alley. One of them is not interested in opening the bowling alley as a facility. So that's where it is. We're working with those individuals.
Okay.
Anybody to the left, to the right, to the center?
Mr. Chairman, the way I understood it, we wanted Katie to be our communication person with this, so that's why so all the communication would filter through one person and not 7, 8 people. So that's okay.
Like Justin Timberlake, cry me a river. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
Thank you.
yeah, I don't know about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbott, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Costin. First, I'd like to express my thanks to Mr. Ronnie Rourke for providing a letter that covered several of the questions I began asking this board in June of this year. I appreciate that he took the time, since only one board member attempted to provide a response, despite his suggestion the majority of the board had knowledge of why. The inability to respond to my questions isn't anything new. I've approached the board countless times over the years, and there have been an extremely limited number of responses. I believe the lack of answers causes many to wonder why. The agenda suggests there will be an update dealing with the animal shelter. Hopefully, these questions will get answers. Why is the new animal shelter in excess of 4,500 square feet? Where is that justification for a facility that large, especially since the county has worked out of the old shelter for years, including the 3 years it's taken to get to this point in the process, and will for an estimated 2 more years? What is the expansion capability of a building this large on the donated land? Are there alternate plans with reduced square footage available for review? When will a pictorial or layout of the proposed facility on the donated land be available? When will the roadways, drive-up, and parking lots be available for review once the proposed facility is located on the donated property? Will there be employee and volunteer parking spaces separate from the general public parking area? And who is responsible to obtain agreement with all the landowners using the main entrance drive for overall maintenance? Now, I support a new animal shelter. It just shouldn't be 3 times larger than the average home in Nottoway. And those 3 1,500 square foot homes most certainly wouldn't cost $500,000 each. I anticipate hearing some responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Page.
Mr. Chairman, board members, how y'all doing?
All right, how are you?
Doing good. I'm not here to yell at you. Okay. I actually wanted to come out and thank everybody for their help with the election. We all know it's been a kind of a rough season at the elections office, so I want to make sure everybody. And if I forget somebody, I apologize. But first, I want the board to know Mr. Zachary Baldwin was put in an impossible position. We knew, making him the interim general registrar, that he only had training in processing registration, and the election had already started. But we felt that he had the qualities, if given the proper resource, to come in and do a good job. And he did that. He came in and ran a flawless election in an impossible situation with not all the knowledge, no governmental administration knowledge at all, and I think he should be commended for that. And I want to thank him for his hard work. And I know there was many late nights, 12, 1, 2 a.m., getting closer to election, and we couldn't ask for him to do a better job. So thank you for that, Zach. On top of that, I want to thank the State Department of Elections, Mr. David Nichols, Mr. Gary Ellis, Taylor Melton. I'd like to thank the Registrar of Mecklenburg County, Jason Coleman, the Registrar of Charlotte County, the previous Registrar of Charlotte County, Nan Lambert, who we hired as a Registrar Trainer, all of our officers of elections, all of our poll workers, early voting staff, office staff. Everybody did a great job. We didn't have any complaints. We had a smooth election. And I think that, everybody deserves their credit. On top of that, the county, I'd like to thank Fred. He really helped us out in helping moving the machines. The town of Blackstone, Philip Vanderbrook. He helped us with a truck to pull the trailer, the machines around. And he also recommended a new machine technician for us, Miss Chastity Bryant. We appreciate everybody. It takes a lot of people to pull an election off, and we really appreciate everybody's hard work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Page.
Ms. Page.
Mrs. Allen.
Sarah Allen.
Allen.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
I had a very busy day, and I briefly read the newspaper. And I'm coming to speak about the statue. Specifically, Ms. Shackleton, who's saying that she recognizes how the statue represents some of the people in Nottoway County it presents a terrible history, and she acknowledges that, but she's gonna vote by what her constituents say. And I do respect that. I mean, you said that in the beginning, Mr. Rourke said that in the beginning, I think it was Mr. Bowen who also said that in the beginning. So I believe that a lot of these things that we vote on, it's a very diplomatic way to handle it. But morally, doing things that reflect the hurt and pain in our population, in our county, should not be a popularity contest. Doing what's right should not be a popularity contest. You know what was popular? Slavery was popular. Jim Crow was popular. People wanted that by the landslide. Segregation was popular. It took a couple of leaders to overturn that. And I know people said that's history. That's their heritage. Well, your heritage is my horror story. So it's not only my horror story, because I can't speak for everybody. It's a lot of people's horror stories when we talk about it in Nottoway County. And I think it's strange that Nottoway County is going to continue this era of promoting horror and a history that negatively affects a large number of our population. Not the amount of people who voted, but just a large part of our population. When the federal government has already come in and started the process to change the names of our military stations because the federal government gets it. But Nottoway County, we don't. We're going to be like, let's do our own thing. Let's hold on to this heritage, this horror story, because you know what? That's what the majority of the people in Nottoway County wanted. No, that's what the majority of the people who voted wanted. I got my daughter here tonight. This is her first meeting. Don't look at her because she's real shy and she's going to tell me about it all the way home. But I had to pick her up from band practice, and I was like, dang, I don't want to bring her to this meeting because I don't know what's going to happen. And then I walked in and I saw Mr. Taylor. I said, oh, Lord. So we pulling up, and she was like, Mama, this is the place we protested. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, why they still got that statue up? Why these people still want to celebrate slavery? And I said, baby, I don't even know. Why? I said, I don't know. But the thing about it is, this younger generation, they on a whole different level than a lot of the older people in this room, behind this board, whatever. They on this equality level to the point that they don't even understand why this thing is a thing, why it's an issue. And so I don't know what else to say besides, maybe we got to wait till some of these people grow out and move out of Nottoway, so Nottoway can grow with the young people. We doing something right if the young people want to move it. You know, if the young people questioning it. So my question is, what are y'all going to do? And I'm not even going to be here when y'all vote, because I got to take my daughter home, because we got school tomorrow. But I just thank y'all for the opportunity to speak. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins.
No.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
fellow board members,
Sir.
Nottoway County employees, fellow citizens. I'm going to speculate that the future of the Civil War Memorial, which is located here at the courthouse, is a topic that might come up tonight. It's interesting that this memorial has stood here for over 125 years, mostly unnoticed. That changed in 2020 when the radical socialist cancel culture movement started tearing down memorials, statues, and monuments all over the country in their quest to turn this country into a socialist nation. Unfortunately, that outside influence found its way into our county and is heavily involved in this issue. The memorial has the following inscribed in it. Erected by the Ladies Memorial Association of Nottoway, July 20th, AD 1893, and has the names of 532 Civil War veterans from Nottoway County also inscribed in it. It does not honor a cause
and it does not honor any one individual. There's also a similar memorial in Sea Park in Blackstone. It has the following inscribed in it: dedicated to all from Nottoway County who have served their country in time of war, but especially as a memorial to those listed who died as a direct result of hostile action in these conflicts. Below, there's a reference to World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, with the names of 44 war veterans inscribed. Both of these memorials sit on public property in prominent places and honor veterans from Nottoway County who fought in different wars. The big difference is that the 532 individuals who were named on the memorial at the courthouse had the misfortune to be born in a time period that found them fighting in the horrible American Civil War. Just like the veterans named on the memorial in Sea Park, they answered the call to duty, and some no doubt paid the ultimate sacrifice. There's been a lot said and written over the past 17 months on this issue, and some of it has been conflicting. It has been stated that the memorial at the courthouse is a symbol of hate and horror. If it is truly a symbol of hate and horror, then why should it just be moved, especially to somewhere like a church or cemetery, as they're places of peace, love, and respect? If it's truly a symbol of hate and horror, it doesn't belong anywhere in the county. It has been said that the figure on top of the memorial is a statue of General George Pickett. That is incorrect. It is a composite of a typical Civil War soldier. He looks weary, likely from being away from home too long, not having enough food to eat, and from exposure to the elements of Mother Nature due to constant living outdoors and in tents. It has been said that those who are named on the war memorial are traitors. To that, it should be known that not only was there a war going on between armies, but the Union Army was making war on civilians. They destroyed a lot of crops and farm buildings and even some homes in the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia in 1864 in what became known as the Burning. It is likely that some of these same veterans named on this memorial fought to defend their fellow Virginians and their property against those attacks. Fortunately, Nottoway County was spared from attacks like those. However, if they had occurred here, some of these soldiers would no doubt have been defending their fellow Nottoway citizens and their property from these atrocities. That hardly fits the definition of a traitor. These Civil War veterans deserve the same level of respect as their World War I, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam counterparts, and that is the message the voters sent in the Nottoway second referendum. There were 3,626 votes cast that indicated the memorial should stay. There were 1,719 votes cast for moving it. That is a percentage of 68% for leaving it in place and 32% for moving it. But let's dig deeper into the voting here. Unfortunately, the early voting made it impossible to tell exactly how many votes were cast in each respective district, how the votes were cast in each respective district. But in the votes cast on election day, each district voted overwhelmingly to leave the memorial in place. Of the total of 12 voting precincts, 10 voted to leave it in place. Only 2 voted in favor of moving it. Adding those 2 precincts together, there were 309 votes to move it and 226 to leave it in place, which is only an 83 vote difference. To sum it all up, by a margin of over 2-1, the voters expressed their desire that the memorial not be disturbed, and that is a clear mandate. Should this board decide to do differently, this will be going against the wishes and will of the majority of the people whom the board works for and represents. Thank you.
That ends the delegations. We will now move to public hearing. We have 2 issues that will come up in the public hearing. One deals with the sheriff's bonuses to sworn officers, and the other to the school budget. And the school budget, I believe, have 8. Ms. Toma, will you?
The sheriff's office bonuses. The General Assembly approved a one-time bonus of $3,000 for each comp board-funded sworn sheriff and deputy sheriff. That came about as a result of the ARPA funding, because they've just, they've established that that's a viable use for it. So to issue a bonus to public employees, you have to have a public hearing, which is the purpose here. But it should be stated that the sheriff has more than just the comp board allotted funded positions. So the total cost of the $3,000 bonuses to the county will be $54,000. All but $12,000 of that will be received back in reimbursement from the comp board.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone here to speak for the sheriff's department? I know I have a couple of board members who want to speak in support of the giving them the bonuses.
Yes, sir.
I'll start with you, Mr.
Public hearing first.
I'm gonna let the public go first and let them speak. Sheriff, do you want to address this?
No, sir, I really don't have to. It's basically, the comp board has issued the funding. Like she said, the comp board has paid the majority of it. I do have the 4 members that are not comp board funded. That would be the only issue.
Okay. It boils down, I believe, to $12,000 for the 4 that's county funded. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is there anyone here who wants to speak against this? Is there anyone here who wants to speak against not funding the 4 sheriff deputies? Okay. I'm going to close it out now on that particular one. I haven't closed the public hearing yet on that particular one. How does this board feel about funding the sheriff, the 4 that's hired by the county?
Mr. Chairman, clearly the sheriff was overwhelmingly elected, and I think his request should be honored just on that statute alone. But as far as the 4 officers in question, you can't pay some and not the others. And everybody over there, it runs a vital position for that sheriff's department, and it's all for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. So I was standing back the sheriff's request.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak for?
Mr. Chairman, attended a few meetings, and this, Sheriff, this is a prime example that the comp board has to redo their numbers of how many police officers is needed for the population. It's all over the state of Virginia. I don't, you know, I think these numbers came up sometime in the 80s or 90s. I don't know when they come up, but the world's changing, and I agree with Mr. Rourke on the end over there. They all work from Nottoway County, and therefore they all deserve the bonus.
Okay. I'm going to shift now to the schools and then approve both of them. Do I need to approve one?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Individually. Do them,
separate public hearing, sir.
do them individually.
Okay.
Close the public hearing and then let's.
All right, the chair now will entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the,
Need to close.
Yeah, point of
the
procedure, Mr. Chairman, did you close the public hearing before we spoke? We probably shouldn't have. Did
okay.
you close the public hearing? I'm sorry.
All right, the public hearing is now closed.
Okay.
Okay, I need a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve the sheriff's request for the funding, including the $12,000, as requested by the sheriff.
second that.
okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the $12,000 for the county-funded deputy sheriffs. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to let you know, I didn't want to say it before the fact, but the jail approved their bonuses for those people too, so that was just another point, but we were right to do this as before their knowledge, but yeah.
I'm sure we're in line with everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You ready, everyone? Public hearing is to consider 8 budget adjustments to the '22 budget for the school system. The total of these adjustments is $1,336,699.99. There's an appropriation carryover of $580,000. That includes the $500,000 that you allowed the school to carry over for capital improvements, along with 1 instructional position. Carryover for CARES money, a carryover for 21st Century Grant, a new grant award for Jobs for Virginia graduates, a new grant award for McKinney-Vento, which is ARP funding, a new grant award for EpiPen revenue to be used for health materials supplies, a Nottaway Middle School improvement grant, which is new funding to be used for salaries, and an E-rate emergency connectivity fund grant to be used for purchase services, technology, hardware.
Okay, the total amount of those, Ms. Thomas, would be,
$1,336,699.99.
okay, those 8 budget adjustments. What's your pleasure? Is there anyone here to speak for? Is there anyone here to speak against?
I just want to ask you a question. Is any of that money going to be allotted to fix the HVAC systems at any of the schools?
I can answer that. They do have, in
Hey,
their report this time, there's a budget adjustment that has to be advertised next month, that's the ESSER refunding, the ARPA funding for the school.
I think if we're going to put $1.6 million more on
I would
all
imagine
grant
that-
money, that we should fix that. We don't have autistic children get suspended from school for pulling their mouths down with no AC in the middle of the summer. That's all I was saying.
They'll certainly have the funding.
Okay. Anyone else to speak against? Okay, the public hearing is closed on the school's budget adjustment. I would like to hear from our board now.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the 8 school budget adjustments totaling $1,336,699.99.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the budget adjustments for the 8 budget adjustments for the schools totaling $1,336,699.99. Question? Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, that ends the public hearings. We'll now go to presentations. Mr. Baldwin, will you come forward, please?
Don't be nervous. Everybody's looking at you.
So you're used to that, aren't you, Mr. Baldwin?
That's right. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, citizens of Nottaway County, I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in helping with this election. I was very grateful. We faced some unique challenges, but with the participation of everyone involved, and especially with the poll workers, we were able to have a smooth election. I want to thank Katie and Logan and Mr. Costin at the county for their help as well. In this election, we had 5,433 total votes, including 1,949 absentee, in person and by mail. For the governor race, there were 3,497 total votes. 5,416 total votes. 3,497 for Mr. Youngkin, 1,892 for Mr. McAuliffe, 24 for Ms. Blanding, with 3 write-ins. The Lieutenant Governor election, there were 5,392 total votes, 3,490 for Ms. Sears, 1,896 for Ms. Ayala, and 6 write-ins. For the Attorney General race, there were 5,397 total votes, with 3,444 for Mr. Miarez, 1,947 for Mr. Herring, and 6 write-ins. For the member of the 61st District for House of Delegates, there were 5,367 total votes, with 3,506 for Mr. Wright, 1,728 for Ms. Berry, and 129 for Mr. Pascal, with 4 write-ins. For the referendum regarding the memorial, relocation of the memorial, there were 5,345 total votes. 1,719 voted yes, and 3,626 voted no. And that concludes my numbers report.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Any questions from the board members?
I have no questions. I just want to thank you for what you've done and stepping up to the plate like you did in some very muddy waters at a time when Nottoway needed a good calm and storm. And again, I just want to thank you for the job well done and where you led everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now have the introduction. Mr. Costin, could you
Yes.
introduce the Emergency Services Coordinator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is a feel-good moment for me. It's my staff report will note the successful completion of this recruitment, and I want to also note in my staff report also calls out many people who were involved in the process, not just the office staff, but also many of our first responders and the sheriff, various town representatives in this process of everything from writing the job description to the advertisement to serving on the interview panels. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this was very much a whole of community effort in this recruitment, in this selection. The successful applicant is Aubrey W., known as Buddy Hyde. His emergency services career spans over 30 years of combined volunteer and career frontline operational experience. It consists of 12 years as an emergency services coordinator for Brunswick County, interwoven with 20 years in fire and EMS officer positions with supervisory experience. In addition to his role in Brunswick, since June of 2017, Mr. Hyde has served as the emergency medical services provider with the Victoria Fire and Rescue in Victoria. Let me give you some other prior positions about Mr. Hyde. Fire Captain, Chapel Hill Fire Department, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Assistant Fire Chief, Virginia Department of Military Affairs, Virginia Air National Guard Fire and Rescue Department, Sandston, Virginia. Chief Deputy Director, Virginia Department of Fire Programs, Richmond, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a gubernatorial appointment. Executive Director, Virginia Department of Fire Programs, Richmond, Virginia. Again, a gubernatorial appointment. Mr. Hyde is known in Nottoway, in Nottoway's first responder community. He knows Nottoway County, and his work in Nottoway will take our emergency management program to a level likely not anticipated just 6 months ago. On a personal note, I appreciate the fact that the board has moved hiring decisions over to the county administrator. That was done before my arrival, and this was my first hire. And I'm going to probably kick myself in a little bit because I don't know if I could get the bar much higher. This is an excellent opportunity for Nottoway County to bring in Mr. Hyde with his background. And Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I'd like for Mr. Hyde to come to the podium and introduce himself and make a few brief remarks.
Please do, Mr. Hyde.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Costin, staff, and citizens, good evening.
Good evening.
I am thrilled to be joining your team in Nottoway. Thank you for selecting me for this position as your full-time emergency services coordinator. This job is exactly what I was looking for, what I was seeking, a chance to take my passion for fire, EMS, emergency management, all of what comes under that, and channel it into a position that could improve a locality. It's exactly what I was seeking, and I know that we will worked closely together, and I look forward to every minute of that. I know this is probably not my only time at the podium. This will be my first time at the podium. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm very comfortable in this setting. Where I come from, next door, we have 5 Board of Supervisors. I'm used to doing this. I'm used to working with all 5 Board of Supervisors and the county administrator on a regular basis. So very much in what I've done the past 12 years locally. Just a little bit about me, speaking of locally, and I appreciate that introduction, Mr. Costin. He mentioned that I do know Nottoway, and I may get a little humor out of this. This has been part of my life for a long time. It goes back to my teenage years. Even though I was raised in Brunswick County, as a teenager, I used to come to the Grove Drive-In.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember sitting on the back line with pickups from Nottoway, Brunswick, Mecklenburg, and we all sat back there and watched the movie. We missed the Grove Drive-In. I also came to the reservoir that straddles Brunswick and Nottoway at the Fort Pickett Reservoir. As a teenager, I was out there boat riding, fishing, kayaking, you know, just friends. And friends from Nottoway and Brunswick, we would meet in the middle there at the Nottoway Reservoir. So that was a lot of fun. And then a couple years later, in my 20s, I went to work for Freeman Auto Parts. And a lot of you may know John Ferguson that works for Advance Auto. Well, I worked with John. And I also worked with Bobby Freeman and crew. So I worked in both auto parts stores. And for a while, Bobby was out on medical, and I actually ran the store and crew for him and his brother. So I met a lot of good people there, both in Blackstone and crew. Mutual aid calls over the years, I can't count the number. I was at the Mitchell's fire. I came in as a mutual aid from Alberta. But I also was at some other large structure fires, and most recently in the last couple of years out on Brunswick Drive, just before you get to the reservoir, I was responded to a few mutual aid to help Blackstone Fire Department. Also the burn building. The burn building, I was on the committee for that burn building. We used to meet in Rice and made a lot of good friends while we did that, and had a chance to work with them. And I was here for the ribbon cutting when I was in the position in Richmond. We actually were part of the ribbon cutting on that burn building at the fire training grounds in Blackstone. Also, I've instructed many classes over the years in the Blackstone Fire Department in their station, as well as Fort Pickett in the fire and rescue station at Fort Pickett. And over the years, you know, we all are members in several counties around of the Southside Virginia Volunteer Firefighters Association. I'm a 30-plus member of that and was a president in 2010. And had a chance to actually follow Tony Bradford from Blackstone Fire Department. He was the president just before me. So we had a lot of bonding going on there, and we went to a lot of meetings together. But just coming over to meetings in Crewe, Burkeville, and Blackstone, I was able to do that on a regular basis. And then on a more personal note, you know, bringing my family over. My family loves to come to eat in Blackstone. We shop at Walmart occasionally, sometimes go to South Hill. But we come over. We went to the bowling alley. I mentioned that. My 2 daughters, I have two grown daughters now. They loved coming to the bowling alley when they were in high school. So we, you know, we have come over a lot and shopped and eaten in the area. So Nottoway is not a strange area for me, and I'm not a stranger here. But again, I want to really thank you. This means a lot to me to be selected, and I am really looking forward to being on Team Nottoway and working with all of you.
Mr. Hyde, would you come forward, please? I want to present you with this pen from Nottoway County, and welcome, officially welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you again.
I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to back up a little bit because when Mr. Baldwin was up here, I didn't tell him, John, how I met Mr. Baldwin, but Chris Page called me one night, and Chris Page wanted to know if I could get the Burkeville School open. And I got on the phone and made a lot of calls, and the school was successfully open. And I rode up there early that morning, and Mr. Baldwin was there, and this is how we met. And he has been a big asset to Nottoway County, particularly during the unrest that's been in the county with the electoral board. Thank you, Mr. Baldwin.
Mr. Chair.
I just wanted you to know that I've got a member of my board who loves to keep me on my toes, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to Mr. Hyde for a minute if we could. So welcome to Nottoway, and I do like your name. I just hope that Blackstone crew and Burkeville Fire Departments and Nottoway Emergency Squad will be calling you buddy as well, because you got a task ahead of you. But Mr. Costin has recommended you very much so, and I think a lot of the people in the towns have too, and we're looking forward to us becoming one again, and we're leaning on you on that. So we thank you for that.
I've heard some good things too, Mr. Hyde. Well, you know, I get around quite a bit, Brunswick and Mecklenburg and all over, and I've heard some very good things. So we're very happy to have you in the county.
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, Mr. Hyde will actually start December the 1st.
Okay.
But there's a stack on his workspace that's starting to grow.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mr. Chairman, one of the first things we got to do with Mr. Hyde, though, is get him to the dine-in and crew. Now, you want a good meal, we got to get you to the dine-in and crew.
That's right.
Okay, now we're into department.
Reports.
Mr. Hawks, I don't normally go out in the crowd and let people talk unless it's about Mr. Hyde. It is about Mr. Hyde? Go, come on then.
I think as I can remember, Mr. Hyde, I don't know if you remember me, but I was traveling to Lawrenceville, and I had my lawnmower on the back of one of my trailers, and it wasn't tied down securely, and it ran off the road. And here I am on 46, and cars and trucks were passing by, and I'm with this lawnmower, and hit a mailbox, and knocked that sort of down. So I'm trying to lift it up, and I couldn't do it. So I'm saying, what am I going to do? So along came Mr. Hyde, because it was near his home and his father's home. And he explained to me his position, and that was sort of unique to me, because, you know, Nottoway didn't have that type of position at that time. And he helped me. He was like a good Samaritan. He helped me get the lawnmower on the trailer. He helped me tie it down, and he told me, hey, look, well, bring the ropes back and just drop it off at my house. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, just do that. So this is the type of person we have for our county. He's a good man, and he's a good Samaritan, and he's always available in case of emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawks. Thank you. Okay, we'll now have department reports.
Virginia Department of Transportation.
Is there anyone here from transportation? Oh, I saw her.
Ms. Bryant's here.
She's
Ms.
right there.
Bryant.
She's incognito with the mask. Good to see you down.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Costin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to bring y'all a little bit of good news tonight. The Route 618 bridge is complete and was reopened earlier this year. I know that made some people happy, and the ones that were on the road with no traffic, probably not so much. But that's a new bridge, and it's going to be there for a long time. We just started our final round of mowing, secondary and primary, on Monday. So normally the last round of mowing is considered right-of-way to right-of-way. Once our contractor completes it, then we go behind them and do the high brush cutting. So that should be completed probably mid-December at the latest. The traffic study for Tyler Road, Route 619, I know in your board report it says it's still ongoing. We just got that back today. And it has been sent to the local and state law enforcement for their review and concurrence. So once we get concurrence from law enforcement, we will provide the recommendations for that study. We did perform a lot of pipe repairs in the county this past month. Repaired a lot of shoulders on Route 460 business and several eroded areas along Nelson and Pine Lane, Lone Pine Road. We still have a bit of a delay on this, the materials for the bridge out here on 460 Business. So hopefully that'll get going in the first week or so of December. So we seem to be having a lot of materials delays on that project. But that is all of my additional items for you over and above what's on your report. And I did request our administrator to submit our report a few days earlier, as she's been missing the deadline to get it into your packet. So my apologies for that, but we'll get it in earlier from now on.
Okay.
Do you have anything for me?
Board members?
I think so.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Bryan.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Mr. Bourne, will you comment on the planning commission?
You,
Yeah.
so we're not doing
Solid
solid waste?
Solid waste is
Oh,
contained.
solid waste,
Waste.
but no one is here from solid waste.
That's contained in the board packet.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. I just was looking forward to hear about solid waste. Anyway, Planning Commission, Mr. Chairman, we had a meeting November 16th, Tuesday night. The Planning Commission has accepted, and if the board will accept it, and I thank Mr. Costin for trying to arrange this. We're trying to have a joint work session with our board, and we're planning hopefully to have that December 9th. Am I right, Mr. Costin? I don't think we set a time yet. The subject is about the solar power, and Mr. Costin actually gave a timeline to us, and I'm sure you'll kind of, we had that moratorium that we put back in December, and some things happened, and we want to get this thing back on the front, and of course, at the VACO meeting, you guys realized how many meetings and discussions was about solar power. So hopefully, if you can you look at your calendars? Have you already let them know yet, Mr. Costin?
I conveyed it in an email
Right,
after
okay.
the planning commission meeting
Okay.
and suggested 7 o'clock
All right.
for December the 9th, and this would be a joint work session with the planning commission here in this room.
Okay. So that's my report just for the planning commission.
And could you invite CRC, Melody?
Certainly.
That same meeting?
Certainly.
Yeah, because it's heavily discussed at there as well. Animal control.
Well, did one of the board members want to make that a motion to have the work session?
I move that we have a work session on December the 9th at 7 p.m., a joint work session with the planning,
At 7?
at 7 o'clock with the planning commission.
Okay.
Second.
Did I get a second?
John,
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we hold a work session on December 9th at
7 p.m.
7 o'clock p.m.
with the planning.
Question. We're going to have the planning commission as well as the Board of Supervisors meet on December 9th. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, I don't see anyone here from the Health Department. Go right on.
As I mentioned a little bit ago,
Okay.
again, I stand before you and ask you to authorize a public hearing on budget adjustments for the school. They have a total of 11 in this report, totaling over $6 million. A large portion of that, to the tune of $6,119,594.77, is the ARPA funding for the schools, the ESSER 3 funding. So that's the bulk of it. The remainder of it is a little bit of new grant funding and a lot of carryovers from previous grants.
What's that figure again?
I'm sorry?
The figure, the total figure?
Oh, the total figure is $6,764,751.08.
And this needs to be approved?
You need to authorize to advertise for a public hearing.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to authorize a public meeting on this.
Public hearing.
So,
I move that we authorize a public hearing for
the library.
the school for the school system for next month, for December's meeting.
Okay, I got a second.
Ms. Simmons, that public hearing was for the $6,764,551.08.
751, right?
Yes, $751.08.
751.8.
Yes, ma'am. I'll second
Yes.
that.
Okay, and that's for the schools.
For the school system.
Yes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we have a public hearing basically to discuss the $6,764,751
And 8 cents.
in December the what?
In our
We
December
haven't set a
meeting.
date yet. At our December meeting.
Regular meetings.
Regular
Regular
meeting.
meeting. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. Katie, help me out here. So all this is grant money and it's carryover.
Not all of the grants.
Okay, I just want to be a little, I want to try to get ahead of the public because they're going to be calling on this one.
So the 21st century grant carryovers,
Okay,
those funds have to be appropriated in the budget that they're being spent. So that's why each year you have these budget adjustments for carryover amounts.
I got you.
But like I said, the bulk of this, over $6 million, is the ARPA funding, ESSER funding for the school systems, just like they've released to localities, municipalities.
Whoa,
Any other?
okay.
So a lot of this is new grant money
Money,
that
yeah.
was not anticipated in the
Because of
budget development.
Okay. And I guess maybe COVID affected some of the spending, is that, you think? Or?
Everything they do with them is typically an estimate. You know, they try to spend these grants in the years
Yeah,
that they're
I
in,
got you.
but they're not obligated, so they carry over.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Mr. Rourke, will you talk about social services?
Yes, sir.
Y'all didn't vote on that, you had a motion and a second, but you didn't vote.
Call for the vote, sir.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
No, you're talking about for the grant?
Yeah, we voted.
Yeah, we voted, and then I mentioned afterwards,
came back
a
with-
clarification.
You came
yeah.
back with questions.
He asked for a discussion after the fact.
I did. I was still in a little bit
Well,
kind of,
I understand, Mr.
I was in a little bit of
I
denial over
understand
here.
that.
So
I understand him.
I'm back.
Ms. Simmons made the motion, Mr. Rourke seconded the motion, and I carried the motion. Then Mr. Bourne wanted to talk about it, and that's fine.
I wanted to clarify something. It's a little different.
Mr. Chairman, as far as social services goes, you know, nothing's perfect. There's a lot of transition going on over there right now. Items being addressed that needs to be addressed, but what I want to focus on tonight is one brief moment. Ms. Rhonda Johnson was very instrumental in finding a lost child. And she was working with other counties and law enforcement in doing that. She followed up on a tip and they located the child safely. So I just think it's just a point of recognition that when someone does well, they should be recognized as well.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Rourke. Constitutional officers. I don't see Mrs. Brown. Sheriff?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for taking care of the guys that's not on the comp board. And other than that, I have nothing to report. So thank you for that.
You're quite welcome.
You sure?
Thank you. I don't see Mrs. Myatt. Ms. Hudson, I don't see her. Ms. Waltress, I don't see Mrs. Waltress. Okay. Unfinished business. Ms. Shackleton, will you comment on the animal control shelter, please?
Yes, sir. I have a progress report from Mr. Anzavino regarding the Burkeville site and the geotechnical study. The field work has been completed by Froling and Robertson. We're waiting on a written report, but no rock or soil issues were identified that would stop the project. Phase 1 environmental report was completed by Draper Aden. No contamination issues were found on the site. A boundary survey and topographical field work were completed by Timmons. The survey will be conveyed to the county's attorney for transfer of property. No issues with the field work. In addition, Timmons is helping answer questions from the town of Burkeville about water pressure demands for the new facility, and we've learned that no sprinklers will be required at the facility. The town of Burkeville has ordered water line pipe for the extension of services, and sewer extension is being planned. Ms. Giles, the county attorney, has discussed deed covenants with Mr. Boswell. We've got a target date of the December board meeting for the official donation transfer of the property. We still need to resolve a few road issues, and the attorney and county administrator have been working on that. I also have an update from the CARES Committee and their Build a Better Shelter campaign update. They've started their fundraising campaign. It was launched with a $500,000 goal. So they've had lead gifts, $50,000 in memory of Dr. Bo Gotze, another $20,000 anonymous gift. So donations total to date over $92,000. They're close to 1/5 of the way to their goal. Dollars for Dogs and Cats donation canisters have been placed in 23 business locations throughout the county. A thermometer sign was placed in Crew that will track the donations, and they're working on a website expected to launch in early December, so a lot of progress has been made.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Mr. Bowen, will you comment on the comprehensive plan, please?
So the Comprehensive Plan Committee, which is a subcommittee or ad hoc committee of the Planning Commission, we met November 16th at 6 o'clock. What I like, we're still moving forward. That's a long process, but CRC, with their expertise, is really helping move that forward. I would let the public know that there's help me out, Ted, there's a survey on the website right now, on the county website. So we encourage people to go to the website, tell your opinion in a nice way, which don't always happen. Even my own family members kind of stuck it there a bit, right? But anyhow, but please go to that survey, and we want to hear what you have to say, because this comprehensive plan is kind of, in the next 10 years, is the direction that we want to kind of focus and try to carry the county. And, I just want to say that Mr. Hyde's an example of that's the people's opinion is the reason why we brought him in to be part of our county family as well. So that's, we want to hear what people got to say.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
just to Mr. Bowen's point, there are hard copies of the survey located at the county administration office, the library, several
Piedmont
businesses.
Hospital, and
There are other places that folks can get to those surveys if they don't have access to a computer.
The two newspapers have been very kind as well.
Yeah, the question came up. Zachary probably don't know this off the top of his head, but somebody brought up and says, did we miss a fine time about not having to survey at election polls? But it may be a log. We just had conversation. You probably can't do that. I don't know.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either. I don't know, but anyway, so we're just trying to get as many out, because the more you get out, the more better responses, and you get a good pulse of the county. So.
Okay, Mr. Costin, will you talk about the consideration of the Confederate War Memorial?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the board, you have a copy of a memo that appeared earlier in the packet that basically presents to you some information. You've already heard the results of the referendum. I was able to locate a file on this matter that was started by Mr. Ronnie Rourke. He obtained approximately 15 months ago one estimate. Two companies were approached. Only one provided an estimate of $24,000 to move the statue. At this time, staff recommends that with the results of the advisory referendum and the cost estimate for removal, the board decide to leave the monument in place or pursue some other alternative. However, you need to be advised that by state law, should you choose to remove this monument, relocate the monument, cover the monument, or contextualize the monument, That too would require a public hearing and the necessary notices for a public hearing. Please know that your staff stands ready to implement whatever decision you have.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a statement I'd like to read if I could.
Go ahead, Mr.
We all at times want to go back to when we were kids. Simple ideas, like a big man to protect us, a father, a big brother, a grandfather to keep us safe. Instead of a fresh new start, we want the old one, just simple and recycled. Every item reaches a point where going backward can seem more appealing than going forward. In a world that is changing so fast, it makes us yearn for the old way when life seems simpler. But it doesn't mean that those old ideas are good for us now. We have to face one hard reality as a county. Politics has divided us as friends, neighbors, workers, and even family. And God be with us and guide us back to togetherness. Mr. Chairman, after speaking to numerous citizens since the election, it's been made clear to me by the citizens on both sides of the memorial removal issue that they want this board to take a vote for the record. Therefore, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members, a motion for the Board of Supervisors of Nottaway County to accept the results of the referendum and to leave the memorial in its current location.
Anyone else? Is that?
Put a motion on the
That was a motion.
That's a motion? Okay. We'll get a second.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we keep the memorial in place. Am I quoting you right, Mr. Moore?
To accept the results of the referendum.
And accept the results. The results, just, Mr. Rourke, the results are advisory. That's all it is. So it comes down to our board making a decision one way or the other. Now, it depends. Now, if we decide to move it, as Mr. Costin said, you have to have a public hearing on that. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that the memorial stay where it is, in place. Am I?
Oh, I'm seconding the motion. I don't know if we're going to say accept the results of the referendum. I think I said I would honor the results of the referendum. I voted in favor of a referendum to hear.
And I voted against
so
it, yes.
So that everybody that wanted a vote or a voice would have it. And so at this point, I'm not going to ignore those results, and even though it's in contrary to my personal opinion about the monument.
Okay. Are we going to vote on it? You want to vote on it tonight?
You have a motion on the floor
We have
now.
a motion.
You have a motion on the floor now.
Right,
So we
to
have to
move
vote.
forward with that.
And you have a second.
Right. Okay. You've heard the motion. You've heard the second. Question. Those in favor of letting it stay where it is, those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of aye. Let's do a hand count on this. Let's do a roll call on this.
Mr. Chairman, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Somebody keeps talking in the audience. Can you have them be quiet so I can hear what you're saying, please?
If someone is talking, please not talk while we are discussing things. And we have a civility policy that if you talk while we're talking, I'm going to ask the sheriff to escort you out. And make no mistake, Sherman Vaughn will do that. I don't back off of stuff like that. Okay.
What I'm
Roll call. The motion is.
Yeah, but I thought his motion was to accept the advisory referendum. That's what your motion was. That's what you said. And you didn't repeat that, Mr. Vaughn. That's what he said. He said,
Okay.
I will accept the advisory referendum. That's what he said.
Well,
But that's what he said, sir.
yep,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm having a hard time understanding that.
Perhaps Mr. Rourke would reread his motion.
Reread your motion, because what he's saying is to accept the results. And just accept the results. And that's no action.
It's, Mr. Chairman, it said to accept the results of the advisory referendum and to leave the memorial in its current location.
Right.
And your motion is leaving the memorial where it is. Now we can act on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you hear that? Okay. Question.
Would you like a roll call?
Let's do the roll call.
Supervisor Bowen?
Yes.
Supervisor Shackleton?
Yes.
Supervisor Simmons?
No.
Supervisor Rourke?
Yes.
Supervisor Chairman Vaughn?
No. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 3-2 for accepting the results of the advisory referendum and leaving the monument in its present location.
Okay, so it will stay where it is. Okay, new business. Katie, will you come forward, please?
As I mentioned, that I expected at last month's meeting, we have another District 1 housing recipient that has fulfilled their financial obligations to the county. So I ask that you authorize the county attorney to prepare and file the certification and affidavit of satisfaction for Ms. Fuller.
Okay. Mrs. Fuller has paid her note. So what do we need to do? Get the lawyer to...
Authorize the county attorney to prepare the certification of satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the county attorney to prepare a file for the certification affidavit of satisfaction on the Fuller property.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize the attorney to do the certification. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Move on, Mr.
The town of Blackstone has received its third round of CARES funding to be utilized for municipal utility relief. It has been extremely successful for them and the residents of the town of Blackstone. In order for them to receive that money, the county has to act as their fiscal agent. So I need you guys to authorize the county to act on their behalf. It's pass-through money. We will receive the money in. This appropriates the $3,812.50 and allows us to distribute it to the town.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize that Nottaway County act as the fiduciary agent for the town of Blackstone Municipal Utility Relief Program funds to include appropriation of said funds and distribution to the town of Blackstone, and additionally authorize the county administrator to execute the certificate addendum.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that that the county is the fiscal agent for this municipal utility relief. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Costin, will you do the opioid,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
opioid settlement?
The opioid settlement is a consortium of sorts that through the discovery that opioids have become very addictive, have caused a great deal of demand on police and fire, rescue, hospitals, that perhaps the opioids were not prescribed in the manner necessary or marketed in the manner that was appropriate. There has been a settlement between 4 pharmaceutical companies. They are named in the resolutions that you have before you. McKesson, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, and Janssen. The way this works is The settlement money will be distributed across the states in a formula that looks at the number of localities within each state that is participating in the settlement. So to get any money out of the settlement, these two resolutions are necessary. One puts us in the settlement, and one puts us in the Virginia-specific settlement. And the more localities that go into the settlement for Virginia, the greater our percentage will be. So it's a matter of here's a revenue source that is really intended to offset unintended expenses that have occurred throughout the years. I will tell you that it does take the two motions that are set out in my memo. And the staff obviously would recommend these to you. Be happy to take any questions that you might have, but that is essentially the purpose of this action. There is a very detailed, I gave you some information in the packet relative to the political subject, important information about the National Opioid Settlement Subdivisions. There is another document that I referenced. It is 70-some pages long, and most of it is signature pages. So trying to hold down the cost of printing, held that out, but it's available to you if you need to see it. We do have to act on this by the end of the year, so you could carry this over if you have any additional questions or concerns. But the staff would recommend that you act this evening, but certainly, if not this evening, next month.
We need to do two resolutions.
Two resolutions, yes, sir. Two motions.
Mr. Chairman, this came to us before, excuse me, Ms. Simmons. So this came to us before, and we put it off to the side. We should have went on and voted for it then and put the resolution. My understanding is close to $5 billion is going to be offered to the state of Virginia, and we're one of the few counties who's not done this resolution. So, and they made it clear, I was with Mr. Costin close by, and you got to have it done by December to get.
We're going to do it tonight.
We're going to do it tonight, okay?
Chair will entertain the motion.
For the reasons cited in the resolution approving Nottaway County's participation in the proposed settlement of opioid-related claims against the named companies, I move adoption of the resolution and that the county administrator be authorized to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the county's participation.
You could do one at a time, or you want to do both?
One at a time, please.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize the resolution on the opioid settlement. Those in favor, question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. We'll now do the second resolution. Need a motion?
For the reasons cited in the resolution approving Nottaway County's participation in the Virginia Opioid Abatement Fund and Settlement Allocation Memorandum of Understanding, I move adoption of the resolution and that the county administrator be authorized to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the county's participation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the second opioid resolution. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign. Those opposed, have it. Okay, Mr. Costin, could you talk about the energy audit?
Yes, sir. You all have received a work session presentation from ABM, which was an audit, an estimate of looking through the courthouse complex, both water services, HVAC services, and electrical. And they have proposed further study and then participation in moving forward to implement some improvements to the buildings here on the courthouse grounds that would result in some fairly significant savings each year, and they've projected out 15 years worth of savings. We have the money available to initiate this. I believe, if I remember correctly, first year would actually result in a savings of $17,000, which we could put into other capital issues rather than just paying the electric bill. We have $100,000 in maintenance funds carried over from last year. We have $100,000 budgeted this year, and we have approximately the same amount of CARES Act available to us until the end of the year. So staff would recommend that you move forward with this proposal by ABM. I know that one of the concerns has been, okay, is this really, is it too good to be true? And the reality is, it's true. I reached out and spoke with Caroline County today, as well as the Middle Peninsula Juvenile Detention Center, and asked specifically if the proposals and the expectations that were made by ABM came to reality. And in both cases, they said not only did they come to reality, but they were actually surpassed. If you have, staff would be happy to take any questions that you all have at this time. However, Mr. Butright, with ABM, I think he was one of your presenters during the work sessions. He's here tonight to answer any other questions you may have. But I'd be happy to take any questions that staff can answer at this time.
I think the only question I had was, well, from before, I mean, just making sure we're following procurement procedure, that we don't need to do an RFP or anything.
I'll let Ms. Tomer speak to that, but we have been in contact with ABM, and I think as recently as today, they gave us the GSA approved.
Our ability to link with them and use their project, so we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions. In the ABM letter of intent, there's a reference, the county understands the investment with ABM will be significant. How much do you anticipate the total project cost to be? I noticed in these references it ranged anywhere, the project cost ranged from $1 million to $14 million.
Right, so that's what, in this next phase, that's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a list of energy conservation measures, and we're going to put a cost and savings to each of those, and we're going to co-author that final solution with you based on your priorities. So our obligation is to create a self-funded project from savings. If you want to do more than that, to do some more capital improvements, that will be, that's part of the next step, is that you'll actually select. So you're not obligated to a contract. At this point, we're doing the audit to come up with the final cost and savings to implement those.
And the audit, is that the cost of?
That's the
$12,499.
Yes, and there's no, we don't invoice you for that. There's no upfront cost for that. The intent is that will just roll into the overall project. So to date in Virginia, we haven't had any of these projects to where anybody's had to pay for that audit, because they have all done some sort of performance contracting project with that. And so there was never any invoicing. It just went into the overall cost.
So, and I'm sorry, I probably just need remedial instruction on how this funding works. So once you develop a project cost, the county will pay that up front and then over time recoup that from the savings.
So there's a couple different ways that there still we can structure it so there isn't an upfront cost. A lot of times they'll be done through a tax-exempt municipal lease. So what'll happen is you'll get whatever that project value is that we're implementing. They'll be financing. And what we do is we're going to implement that project, and there's no payment on that until there's enough savings to start repaying that. So it's typically about 12 months after you get under contract, and then you've got the savings every year that are going to repay for those upgrades. So it's structured that way so that you still don't have any upfront costs. It's once you achieve those savings, you're repaying any kind of service agreement or if you had financing on it.
So one thing, if you could explain to me, I think again from the letter of intent, the county may elect to buy down the purchase and installation costs that cannot be totally funded by energy and operational savings. Can you explain that to me?
So kind of goes back to if you want to do more work than what energy and operational savings are going to pay for alone from what we're guaranteeing, say you had windows or roofs, typically there are going to be energy savings, but they do not pay for themselves, within the term of that agreement. So that gives you the ability, if you want to include some of those measures, to where you could either, if you had additional funding, one-time funding for if you have a capital improvement budget, or if you had an incremental that you wanted to contribute to that program annually. So that gives you the ability to do that if you elect to.
So what, excuse me, Ms. Shackleton. So like Windows is a long-term savings per se to get your money, your return back. That's
Right.
what I'm hearing.
It's a longer, and that's why the benefit of these programs is bundling them. It's a lot of times they're items you need to do anyways, right? So you still got to do HVAC. At some point you got to do Windows. They don't pay for themselves alone. Lighting is one of the ones, for instance, that's going to drive the quickest payback, and that actually helps pay for some of the more capital intensive, whether it be HVAC or Windows, roofing, those type of things.
So I guess another question I would have for the board and Mr. Constant, I found the space utilization study dated April 2020. Am I right that we paid $20,000 for this? And then we paid $20,000 to Davenport to come back to us with helping to guide us for capital expenditures. So are we comfortable making a commitment to this? It's not even in conjunction with these two studies that we have paid for. Or should this all be strategically planned at the same time? Or, I mean, I'm not denying that there's a lot of work that needs to be done at the courthouse complex, but is this in isolation from these other studies that we've got, one going on and one that was done?
If I may, I don't believe so. Davenport is aware, it has been copied in, looped in on the ABM project. And as far as the April 2020, I have to be honest with you, still not having been here for 3 months, I haven't delved into that. But my understanding of that space needs study is it's utilizing the existing structures that are here. This improves those structures for whoever may occupy that space over time.
I think there were, possibly, well, I don't know, I haven't delved into it either, but, so we don't have any idea at this point what the total project cost could be. It looks like a pretty big range in project cost.
Yeah, that's what this next step is. And we can incorporate anything that you would want us to from that study too. So if there are some things that you want us to look at, it's part of what we do in our technical audits too, so.
So the 12,000, if I understand this, the 12,000 gets us a smorgasbord list of things that you all would recommend be done for energy savings and cost savings.
Right, it'll give a firm
And
fixed
we can
cost.
we can pick and choose all that out of that list.
That's correct.
What we pick and choose then drives the cost to implement, but it drives the cost of it drives the savings.
Right, and we actually do, it's a turnkey project. So we're actually not only giving you the cost and price, we're actually implementing the solutions, guaranteeing the savings and the long-term performance. So it's really, we're the company that will make all those improvements as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a layman's term dude. Okay.
Okay.
All right. With the $12,000 that we're talking about, that still leaves us no contractual obligation moving forward.
Well, the only contractual obligation would be is if you decide not to implement the project and we're able to truly bring you a self-funded project from energy and operational savings. If you decide not to implement any type of project, then you would be obligated to the $12,400.
Follow you. Okay.
For the work.
All right.
I think here's the, there's nothing, Ted, I think this is one of the, okay, so we do have a HVAC problem, okay, so, but the thing, I think what it is, when we had a work session, we did priorities, and this won't on the priority list. However, probably should have been on there because people had trouble breathing in the offices. I think we had priorities about trying to get and help me out, Katie, a little bit, because Ted won't hear, so it's not really fair for him. But I think we mentioned about getting the voter registration back up here. What Ms. Shackleton is referring to is the courthouse complex, and I can't remember. It was like we did because we said, look, we got to have top 3 or 4 because we can't have the county staff, trying to figure out which way to go, and But I kind of, and what would, and nothing to do with them, but what we're concerned about is, and I kind of see her point, and maybe, you know, we got to get the list. Some stuff we got to fix, but we don't want to back away from the county complex. You know, we want still to do that. And just like Mr. Page mentioned today about the school HVAC system, they did an energy. That's how they built. They were the savings, and I guess has that time period been over with? And as soon as they finished paying that off, the thing is broke.
Now, you know, that's kind of, I don't know, but anyway.
It was successful for the school system. I mean, they could speak to that if you wanted them to, but
Yeah, the money they saved paid off the stuff.
It's basically what happened. That's what it was, and we've done it at Piedmont, and it paid the boiler. It paid off. You know, well, what I could see, you know, but anyway.
So is it the board's intent to ever use this space utilization study? So I'm not being sarcastic, because in it talks about, includes consideration of the following options: remodeling, renovation, construction of additions, consolidation, removal of existing buildings. So does any of that need to be considered before
I believe you've indicated that you all would take a look at that.
Those are a benefit to us.
that'll be
Like,
part
we know
of it.
a lot of counties and school divisions, they get facility condition indexes done, they get the spatial studies, and then that information is, you know, we're able to take it to that next level, to where we're actually coming up with, instead of it just being the report that you're evaluating, we're looking at, okay, this is what it costs to actually do these items.
And
And then can
this could also be, if it hasn't already been, because again, you have to, please remember, I'm coming in midway on some of these projects. This was already initiated when I got here.
Yeah.
But
It was before I got here as well.
This document, the space needs study could, I can speak with the representatives from Davenport and that we met with while we were at VACO and see if this would be of benefit to them as well.
At least this way it does get used. Space, just take your office, Ted. Just look at that. You have no privacy in your office.
Oh, yeah, you know.
And we looked at things like that with this space utilization study. And bringing the electoral thing
The registrar back over,
back
yes.
to the courthouse.
But anytime, like, and I think the sheriff's department was brought up first. You know, when you do and I've done this at Piedmont and done this for years, you're gonna have to have a swing space. In other words, you got to build something, and then somebody's got to go in, and so you can renovate the old pit. You know what I mean? That's what you. But I don't want that to put off that completely to the side. You know, but. I mean, and I see the reluctance there from Ms. Shackleton, but I'm willing to move forward looking at the options. But I don't want to, I can't see investing $14 million or something like that into it, you know.
I think we need to, if we're going to talk about having this initial analysis done for the, what was the cost? 14,000, 12,000?
12,000.
Well, I'm not sure this motion, the motion is to authorize staff to undertake steps necessary to implement maintenance and upgrading of the infrastructure of the buildings as outlined in the energy audit, and to fully use as far as practical all CARES funds. That would be taking it beyond, is there a motion to just proceed with this initial analysis, or?
Lynn, put in a
You
motion.
could rephrase it, you could make that motion.
Rephrase it the way you think it should go.
I'll definitely second that, and, yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she wants to make that motion now, I'll definitely second that and go with that.
Yeah.
You want to amend the motion, Ms. Shackleton?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
All right. And I just had a good idea there, Sheriff, on why she's looking for that.
I'm looking for that.
If we build a nice animal shelter, would you move down there before we move the dogs? Till we build you something. Might be nice. According to Mr. Abbott, it might be better than what you might get.
It would have some additional cages.
It's tough, man. It's something that's long overdue.
She's working on a motion now.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the board approve payment of a fee of $12,499 to ABM for the energy engineering analysis and funding analysis to be presented approximately 120 days after the execution of the agreement.
Okay,
Second.
It's been moved and second that we authorize how much? That's 12,000, and I didn't get all of the amount.
$12,499, I believe.
$12,499. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No opposed, no opposition.
Thank you.
Okay, consent. Miss Katie, will you come again, please?
Your consent agenda includes 7 items, and as you see in your package, I have one of those separate from those 7. The first 6 being your October operational expenses for all funds. You have a refund request from the Commonwealth's attorney. She had 2 different entities, FOIA information, and one of her estimates to them was overestimated, so we need to refund that to that company. There's a budget adjustment for the circuit court clerk. She's received grant funds from the Library of Virginia in the amount of $21,485.50. This is pretty common for her. They allow this money to restore the land books and things like that in the office. There is a request for a refund of a variance application fee. As you can see, Mr. Pennell applied for the variance on the property that he was planning to purchase, and with some diligent work by Mr. Costin and Susan in the office, they figured out that it wasn't necessary. That application fee was $400. There's an erroneous assessment covering tax years 18, 19, and 20 in the amount of $6,037.41 that needs to be refunded to Scott Timberland Company. And lastly, number 6 is a budget adjustment for the sheriff's office in the amount of $1,560.98. That is insurance proceeds for a damaged vehicle.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve items 1 through 6 of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved that we approve the consent calendar 1 through 6. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Lastly, item number 7, the county has been awarded $286.25 from the Department of Motor Vehicles Animal-Friendly License Plate Program. The locality has the option to use those funds for its own sterilization program, and in lieu of, we don't have one, you have the option to distribute those funds to a private nonprofit entity that does. So I wanted that one to be separate so that motion could include the authorization to distribute those funds to a qualifying local nonprofit program.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, as the county does not have its own sterilization program, I move to accept receipt of the animal-friendly license plate program funding and authorize the distribution of it to a qualifying local nonprofit sterilization program.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Give me that motion again, Mr.
As the county does
I
not
thought
have.
that'd get you.
I know you would.
In other words, you want this money to be spent how?
It would be given the county the authorization to distribute to a qualifying local nonprofit organization.
It's been moved and seconded that we give the county the authority, our staff, the authority to appropriate this money to private organizations.
Local nonprofit.
Local nonprofit
sterilization
organization.
program.
Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. We have information items. Mr. Costa, will you give your report, please?
Yes, sir, be happy to. The report, I've already spoken to, Ms. Shackleton has already spoken to the animal shelter. I will note that the request for proposals for legal services has been issued and responses are due next week. I'll start going through those once they come in. We have not received any at this time, but I would anticipate that we would get at least one in the course of the next couple of days. I've already spoken to the hiring of Mr. Hyde and the assistance that I received from so many sources. Again, appreciate all that. I've had some meetings out with Fort Pickett and the Operation Welcome Allies staff, as well as VDOT staff concerning the Darville's Road Roundabout project. That's led to some interactions with Mr. Gomez with the Nottoway Commons, and we are in conversations. That project is really held up by a concern with the hotel industries, the housing industries about rooming nights, and trying to get a commitment out of FAST-C or someone with the federal government. They're not going to do that, but we're trying to get something in lieu of to try to raise the comfort level for a hotel developer to commit into Mr. Gomez's project and move that forward. I would like to note, Ms. Tomer mentioned the request for refund on a variance application fee. I've implemented some processes that go way back in my career in zoning, which begins with no application is taken until there is a pre-application conference that explains the situation that the people are in and what they would go through from a zoning perspective. Since I've been here, we have had no fewer than 2 variance requests go all the way to the BZA that didn't have to go to the BZA. They were grandfathered lots. They could have been processed a lot differently, but it's because there just wasn't anybody taking the time to look at other options and process. So we have implemented a pre-application consultation to give some time for the various staff entities, not just in the county, but outside the county, the state, that are required by state law to look at these applications, which hasn't always been done in the past. We've built in a bit of a time frame that no application, the application deadline will be 1 month ahead of the first public hearing. So if the Planning Commission has to review a special exception or rezoning, then they'll know the day of that meeting what they have on the next agenda based on what's come in. Ms. Tomer has been very patient with me. We've started the review of the budget process by looking at the current budget. It's taken me almost 3 months to have a couple of days to sit down with her and go through the budget. But we have attached at the back of my staff report a proposed schedule, and I would ask that you all just be flexible. I think it's fairly aggressive. It's dependent a lot upon when we get reports from the school board and can move forward and complete the process. But we certainly would look to have the process completed well in advance of the July 1 deadline. I have previously suggested that we do a work session in December in advance of the General Assembly, inviting Delegate Wright and Senator Ruff. In light of the work session that we need for the solar ordinance, I would ask the board to consider inviting those 2 state representatives to your next regular meeting and take some time and discuss with them issues of concern coming up at the next General Assembly. And as we all know from having been at VACO, there are lots of issues of concern coming up at the next General Assembly. We have removed asbestos from the pulley house and the barn. We've also undertaken the removal of the HVAC system in the propane tanks, in preparation for the demolition of those properties. That is the site that's been identified for the construction of the new office complex. And I want to take a moment and give a shout out to the building official, Mr. Dean Lewis. As the board knows, the vehicle that he used, his work vehicle, came into disrepair. It's taken a long time to get it back in repair. I think we're still waiting on that vehicle to be repaired. Parts are sitting on a cargo ship somewhere off the coast of California, I imagine. And then we decided it would be best maybe with emergency services coordinator coming on, that he could take that truck. Sorry, buddy, you're not getting a new truck, you're getting an old truck. But give Mr. Lewis a new truck. And that took several months to procure. And all of that time, Mr. Lewis used his personal vehicle to get county business done. Now, he was compensated at the federal mileage rate, but I'm just going to tell you, there are not a whole lot of employees that would go that extra mile. I think he went many extra miles in his personal vehicle. So I just wanted to give him a shout out for his extra effort to conduct county business. That's all I have. I'd be happy to take any questions that the board has at this time.
We should definitely get Mr. Lewis a turkey. Grateful guy.
I'm not gonna touch that. What about it, boy?
Yeah.
Okay, need a motion to go into closed session?
And I have that, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I should have pulled that up earlier. Anybody?
Is that on the agenda? Is that the one, Mr. Chairman, I hope I'm getting this right. Mr. Costin, catch me if I'm wrong. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go in closed session according to Virginia Code 2.2-3711 A1, assignment and performance of specific county employees, specifically relating to personnel and human resources matters now pending in multiple departments, including, but perhaps not limited to, maintenance, planning, economic development, county administration, and landfill.
We get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into closed session citing the code, the Virginia Code. Question. Those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. We will now go into executive session. Please cut your mic.
Mrs. Shackleton, thank you for bringing up that $20,000 twice. It normally isn't brought up by anybody, but I appreciate that. There is someone that remembers that we had those things.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thanks.